The 6th Florida Infantry Regiment was raised by the Confederate State of Florida for service to the Provisional Army of the Confederate States of America, organized and released from state service in mid-April 1862. The regiment would leave the state in mid-June 1862. It was assigned from June through August 1862 to the Army of East Tennessee, General Edmund Kirby Smith commanding. The Army of East Tennessee was redesignated as the Confederate Army of Kentucky on August 25, 1862, when General Smith led it into eastern Kentucky during the Confederate Heartland Offensive. On November 20, 1862, the Army of Mississippi, General Braxton Bragg commanding, and the Army of Kentucky, General E. Kirby Smith commanding, became the Army of Tennessee. General Bragg assumed command, and General Smith was reassigned to the Department of East Tennessee. The 6th Florida would remain assigned to the Army of Tennessee until its surrender at Bentonville, North Carolina on April 26, 1865. Organization. On February 2, 1862, the Confederate War Department issued a call for troops. Florida, under this newly imposed quota, would furnish 2 regiments and a battalion to fight for the duration of the war. The troops would rendezvous at pre-selected locations and there be clothed, supplied, and armed at the expense of the Confederate States. Furthermore, each enlistee would receive a $50 bounty for volunteering. The 10 companies that would become the 6th Florida Infantry Regiment would begin forming in February and March 1862 as independent companies serving the state of Florida. The companies were recruited from Collier, Gadsden, Jackson, Santa Rosa, Union, Walton, and Washington counties. The companies surveyed maintained an average age of 25 years. The companies would be mustered individually into Confederate service for 3 years, or the war. They would not be organized into a regiment until the election of field officers. The various units were ordered to Camp of Instruction at the Mount Vernon Arsenal at Chattahoochee in Gadsden County in late March, where they would be trained in maneuvering in large bodies and in campaigning duties. Companies. Captain Jesse J. Finley's company was called into Confederate service on March 17, 1862. Initially stationed at the Mount Vernon Arsenal at Chattahoochee, in Gadsden County, they would be moved to Rico's Bluff in Liberty County, Florida. Captain James C. Evans' company was stationed at the Mount Vernon Arsenal at Chattahoochee, in Gadsden County on April 21, 1862. Captain John L. Hayes's company was stationed at the Mount Vernon Arsenal at Chattahoochee, in Gadsden County in April 1862. Captain Henry O. Bassett's company is reported to have been at Camp Kirby Smith at Knoxville, Tennessee from March 28 through April 30, 1862. Captain Lawrence M. Attaway's company was serving as state troops and stationed at Mount Vernon Arsenal at Chattahoochee, in Gadsden County, Florida from February 11 until March 11, 1862, at which time they were mustered into Confederate service. They would be moved to Rico's Bluff in Liberty County, Florida on March 14, 1862. Captain Henry B. Grace's company was stationed at the Mount Vernon Arsenal at Chattahoochee, in Gadsden County, Florida on March 11, 1862. Captain Angus D. Mclain's company was stationed at the Mount Vernon Arsenal at Chattahoochee, in Gadsden County, Florida on April 2, 1862. Captain Harrison K. Hagan's company was called into Confederate service on March 14, 1862, and was stationed at the Mount Vernon Arsenal at Chattahoochee, in Gadsden County, Florida. Captain Angus McMillan's company was called into Confederate service on March 14, 1862, and was stationed at the Mount Vernon Arsenal at Chattahoochee, in Gadsden County, Florida. On April 10, 1862, Florida Governor John Milton informed Secretary of War George W. Randolph that the requisition for 2 regiments and a half of infantry would by the 15th instant be fully organized and subject to your orders, and companies enough have volunteered for service for 3 years of the war to compose 3 full regiments of infantry, to serve during the war and wherever the services may be necessary. The 6th Regiment, at the Mount Vernon Arsenal on the Chattahoochee, will be organized on the 14th instant. Quote, with regard to the arms which were received by the steamer Florida, .160 were placed in the hands of 2 companies at Rico's Bluff, and the rest are at the arsenal. Election of Field Officers. Colonel Jesse J. Finley. Finley was born near Lebanon, Tennessee. He pursued an academic course. He served as captain of mounted volunteers in the Second Seminole War in 1836. Finley studied law at Cumberland University Law School in Lebanon, Tennessee and was admitted to the bar in 1838. He moved to Mississippi County, Arkansas, in 1840, where he practiced law. Finley served in the state senate in 1841. He moved to Memphis, Tennessee in 1842, and continued the practice of law. He served as mayor of Memphis in 1845. He moved to Marianna, Florida, in November 1846 and was elected to the state senate of Florida in 1850. Finley was a presidential elector on the Whig ticket in 1852. He served as a judge of the Western Circuit of Florida from 1853 to 1861. With the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861, Finley was appointed judge of the Confederate States Court for the District of Florida in 1861. He resigned in March 1862 and volunteered as a private. He was elected captain of the Jackson County Volunteers. With Finley's election to Colonel John L. Hayes would become company commander of the Jackson County Volunteers. Lieutenant Colonel Angus Duncan Mclain. Mclain was born in 1836 near Ukiana, Walton County, Florida. One of 9 children of a wealthy family, he was schooled at the Knox Hill Academy in Walton County. He subsequently attended the Cumberland University Law School in Lebanon, Tennessee, from which he graduated January 26, 1859. In 1860, he was practicing law at Milton, Santa Rosa County, Florida, and residing in the household of James G. Allen. He was elected captain of the Union Rebels, due in no small part to the efforts of his numerous skin in Walton County and Knox Hill Academy classmates. The 26-year-old Mclain would be elected Lieutenant Colonel. Stephen A. Cawthon would become company commander of the Union Rebels. Major Daniel Lawrence Keenan. Keenan was born March 23, 1825 in Duplin County, North Carolina. His family moved from there to Quincy, Gadsden Co., Florida, in 1831. His father died in 1840 when he was still a minor. He was a carriage maker by trade. He also became wealthy by an inheritance of 75 acres of land and 30 slaves from his aunt, Jane Hall. In 1858, he served in the Florida House of the State Legislature in 1850, 52, 58, 59. He enlisted March 12, 1862 as First Sergeant, at Quincy in the Florida Guards. He was elected Major and commissioned April 18, 1862. 6th Florida Infantry Regiment official company designations on April 23, 1862. Florida Adjutant and Inspector General W.M. H. Milton would inform Governor Milton that the following companies compose the 6th Regiment, 8 companies of which are at the Mount Vernon Arsenal and 2 at Rico's Bluff. Magnolia State Guards, Captain L.M. Attaway, Campbellton Grays, Captain H.B. Grace. Jackson County Volunteers, Lieutenant John B. Hayes, Jackson County Company, Captain H.O. Bassett, Union Rebels, Captain. A.D. Mclain, Choctawhatchee Volunteers, H.K. Hagan, Florida Guards, R.H.M. Davidson, Gadsden Grazed, Captain. Samuel B. Love, Gulf State Infantry, Captain. James C. Evans, Washington County Company, Captain. A. Macmillan, of which regiment J.J. Finley is Colonel. A. D. Mclain, Lieutenant Colonel, and D. L. Keenan, Major. Quote, in April, the regiment reported an aggregate of 782 officers and men, with 31 officers and 511 men present for duty. Colonel Finley took the discipline of his regiment seriously, writing to his superior in the Department of East and Middle Florida, Brigadier General Joseph Finnegan, that, I can usefully employ as many as 6 drill officers in the regiment, being anxious to hasten its instruction, so as to make it capable of being handled in the field at the earliest possible convenience. Quote, the soldiers at the arsenal woke at daylight, and drilled for 3 hours each day. To make better officers of the elected civilians, these gentlemen held their own drill session at 10 a.m., and a regimental dress parade held every evening at 5. Soon after the regiment was organized, Governor John Milton assigned Colonel Finley to command of the troops stationed on the river from Chattahoochee to Apalachicola. This assignment was short-lived, as the regiment was ordered in early June to report to General Edmund Kirby Smith at Knoxville, Tennessee.